You all thought I was kidding. Trade Tuesday Season 3 is a real thing.
Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show.
Okay, so I kind of did that April Fool's joke saying I was going to trade this up into a Les Paul Studio, and I was really leaving it in the hands of the viewers if Season 3 was actually going to happen or not.
Those of you that are new to the channel, Trade Tuesday is a series that I do in seasons, where I take a super cheap guitar, buy, trade, and sell my way into a custom shop. I never add any of my own money to these trades. In my first season, I took a Glary Stratocaster and I turned it into a Custom Shop R8. Season 2, I took a B-stock Glary acoustic guitar and transformed it into a Custom Shop Stratocaster. And the way to submit a trade for this series is you email me at tradetrogly@gmail.com, or you can purchase the listing on Reverb. In order to help trades be the main thing that happens, I do not accept less than the asking price for at least 1 week. So you don't always get an episode of this every Tuesday, but if I have an update, it will take place on a Tuesday. So let's see what people wanted to give me for this beautiful guitar. John Keller offered me a ship direct from Glary Burning Fire model. That's a really tempting trade offer. Here was a really cool 3-string cigar guitar. This one was really tempting to me as well. I was offered this Tagmia Stratocaster, a chorus flanger pedal, and even an Ernie Ball glass slide. But unfortunately, none of these trade offers made it to me in time.
Somebody actually bought this thing for $100. There's been quite a few people wanting Trade Tuesday to start again, and they would actually offer to send me something to start it with, so basically it was a donation, but this is the ultimate revenge against a scammer. Not only did I get my money back, but I am also going to get my Les Paul Studio.
And the guy's having me ship this guitar to his daughter is just like who sent me a toy guitar in the mail? So the love spreads on.
So huge shout out to Robert, but we need to pack this thing up.
So after shipping, I had about $90 to play with. But here is what I purchased.
After some astute haggling, I got this nice little mailer right here that technically hasn't been delivered yet because the tracking number never updated for this package. A lot of you will probably think you paid $80 for that. But this is kind of one of those items where if you're in the know, you know that these are actually a lot more valuable. Usually Trade Tuesday starts off with like pedals or accessories, but I think this is gonna give us a huge jump start. It might be a 3-episode season this time if things go well for these things. And this is also an example of why you should definitely take a lot of photos, as many as you possibly can, because it was my knowledge of these other things that kind of helped me fall into this deal. All right, so what is in here? He definitely packed it very well. I was kind of scared because condition is everything on these guys. We have some old Gibson manuals, as well as warranty cards. This first one, I've actually sold these for as much as like, I think $200. What this is a very late 60s, early 70s piece of case candy. It's basically the owner's manual back in the day. There's people that love these things just so they can complete their old 70s or late 60s Gibsons, just to have some nice case candy. And people will pay at least $50. That's like the absolute bottom ring. So if this is $50, all that other stuff is pretty much just freebie stuff. What's kind of cool is it shows you how to string your instrument as well. That's the old style where it locks on right there. I don't personally prefer using that one. But here's like a, a really strange looking SG. Also teaches you how to tune it and the action, things like that. Now I think, yeah, right here, Les Paul Custom. This one's actually made out to one of them. So the serial number is filled in, makes it slightly less desirable. But if you happen to have Les Paul Custom from 1971 with serial number 950-0350, this thing is priceless. So the original price for that guitar back in the day from that music shop was $675. Oh, Aldo Nova's sending me a message. I wonder what that's about. Okay, and there was initially one other page right here that if you fill it out, I think that was your warranty information. I'll have to see if I have another one of these, but the condition of this is pretty good. But that was for a 1971, and this guy right here is a little warranty pamphlet. I've sold these for about $50 before too. This was for a 1979 Les Paul Custom, serial 7274970. Looks like it just says Gibson Les Paul with gold PC. Maybe it just means pickups, because we do not have gold Les Paul Customs until 1980. And what was this guy? I had no idea what this was. I would assume it has something to do with like late 60s, early 70s, because you're under Norlin ownership, so that's about right. And it tells you how to mount your pickup. I don't think I've ever seen this before. All right, well, if this is saying original humbucking or super humbucking, that puts us at least in the mid-70s. This looks like one of the L6S styled pickups. We've got the P90 returned. That might put this towards more late 70s. So just these guys, we should be able to trade into something well worth what I paid there. But this is what I'm most excited for. And this is exactly how this lot was pictured on Reverb. And that's why I was able to haggle them down. Because most people looking at this, they would go, oh, it's just a piece of paper. But I knew exactly what this was. Had he had flipped it around, he would have got a lot more people excited about that listing. This is a late 70s Gibson catalog. One of my very old videos, I actually went through one of these. These are really cool full color illustrations of the old guitars. I mean, you can see like the other people that used to use these on the front page right here, as well as the back page. And I've been able to sell these to collectors for as much as $200. But as a lover of the 70s and 80s era of Gibsons, I absolutely adore these things. I think these were printed in late 78, but it shows you pretty much everything that was made. The Les Paul Artisan, the different kinds of customs offered, Pro Deluxe Standard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take some copies of all these pages so we can kind of look at it together here on the computer screen in a much more updated video than the last one.
Alright, so the outside cover has a Gibson logo that is slightly raised on it, and it reads Quality, Prestige, Innovation. As you turn the page, you can see that it's saying they're celebrating Gibson's 75th anniversary and they're establishing a Gibson Hall of Fame, and just kind of lists all the people that have used their guitars. People like Johnny Smith, Joe Pass, you can see Albert King and B.B. King on here as well. And then it tells you basically about their mission statement on this next page, titled Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. That guy right there is Orville Gibson, the guy who started Gibson. And then this has to be my favorite page on the book. Right here, you start off with the Les Paul. We just recently talked about that with the Steve Howe, as well as the Les Paul Artisan, another super fancy high-end one. You can see all the specs right here. It tells you body wood specifications and all that. The next page shows you the 3-pickup Les Paul Customs. You can indeed find stock 3-pickup guitars in this era that are Les Paul Customs. It also tells you about the maple fretboarded variants. So those were like the 2 modified versions of the Custom. And then we move on to the regular Les Paul Custom with 2 pickups, as well as the Les Paul recording. You get to see a rare one in white on this page. Moving on here, we see the Les Paul Pro Deluxe and the Les Paul Standard. The Pro Deluxe, what made it special is it had P90 pickups in it instead of the mini humbuckers. They also had ebony fretboards. And the Les Paul Standard, yeah, it's just pretty standard specs with humbucker pickups. The regular Les Paul Deluxe, so the one that has the mini humbuckers, and then the Les Paul 5578, sometimes called the 5577. It's basically a reissue of a 55 Les Paul special, but not quite. And then we move on to the double cutaway version of that. Not a lot of people know about those guitars. And then one of my favorite budget guitars of all time, the Paul. It's just a great all-walnut guitar. I've reviewed quite a few of those, as well as the reissue that Gibson did. Moving on, L5S. I have not reviewed one of those yet, but they're like a super fancy solid body L5. And then we have an SG Custom in a beautiful white finish. 3 pickups. And then we have the SG Standard. You get different variations of those in the 70s. And then the L6S Custom. I definitely have a review that tells you about all of the different iterations of the L6S if you're interested. The other iteration, the L6S Deluxe. And then the Melody Maker. Not a lot of people know that the 70s Melody Makers exist, but I do have reviews on those. They're actually really nice guitars, a little bit higher end feeling than you would expect a Melody Maker. Then this page, the S1 and Marauder. Oh man, these things are so much fun if you haven't tried one. Basically Gibson's Stratocaster and Telecaster knockoff. Then our next page, it starts to simplify it down to just one picture per page, and we have the double neck EDS 1275. This one kind of has that Don Felder vibe to it with the white finish. Then we move on to the RD Artist. It's kind of cool to see this published within a book because the RD series, it only lasted from like 77 to about 81. So very small period of time in Gibson history. And here's the other two versions of that, the RD Custom, which we just had a chopped fin review of that a couple of days ago, and then the RD Standard, which basically had none of the Moog electronics built into it. It was just a dot neck as well. Then we move on to the bass side of things, the RD Bass and Sunburst, as well as the RD Standard. I actually did have an RD Artist bass a long time ago. I sold it to Chicago Music Exchange, though. Then here is stuff that I don't really know a whole lot about, the Thin Line series. So we've got the ES355. I haven't really dug into these semi-hollow guitars that much, but hopefully one day I can, expand into these a little bit more. Looks like here we have the 345. We got the nice split parallelogram inlays there, and the regular 335. Then we start getting even fancier. So we get the ES350T. That's not a model you see too often. The T means it's a thin line, so despite looking like a giant guitar, it's actually rather thin than the ES175 that Steve Howe's known for using, but that's the thin line version. Now we got a big full-bodied Super 400C and the L5C. Those are the giant jazz boxes that sell for a lot of money yet today. And then even more expensive here, the Kalamazoo Award model. People ask like $30,000 plus for those guitars. And the Super V. Then we get the Super 400 CES and the L5 CES. CES, if you're not familiar, means cutaway electric Spanish. So that tells you about the body style and that it has a cutaway, whereas the old jazz boxes didn't have a cutaway at all. Then a JSD. I can't say I've really ever heard of that, but then again, I'm not a big jazz box guy. And then the Birdland. Everybody knows those guys because of Ted Nugent. I think he prefers the Florentine cutaway, though. Then we've got the Howard Roberts Artist model. I would like to try these guys, but it tells you there's the Artist and the Custom variation, and it gives you the specs of them on the side so you know what the difference is between them. Oh, here's a really cool one. The ES175 Charlie Christian model. I would love to try one of those things out. And then you just have the standard ES175 besides that. Now we are moving on to the bass side of things. We get a Les Paul Triumph that's got that white finish, and check that out, black binding. That's pretty rare in this era, but the Les Paul recording models do get it. And there's an EB3 bass there, kind of in a less than 60s format. Moving on, the Ripper L9S fretless as well as the fretted version. Those are really good bass guitars. People do really appreciate those basses even yet today. And then we have the lesser loved of the three. It kind of has the Gene Simmons Kiss vibe, the G3 as well as the Grabber. Those are kind of interesting guitars. One of them has that sliding pickup. Then I really love this page too because it's the protector case. The original chainsaw case. They're showing you a Generation 2 because that one has 3 latches, and they're showing you all the features right there. And then the final artist page here. Once again, you've got Steve Howe, Les Paul, the man himself here, Charlie Daniels. I mean, you can just see all these people, even Kiss and Jimmy Page. And then the back, despite being a guitar manual, it has some harp guitar. And it was all because I knew to look for that we were able to score this fantastic deal for Trade Tuesday. We're starting off strong this time. And then this pickup pamphlet is actually really interesting because it's given me names that I have never heard before. So it says original humbucking or super humbucking pickups. I've heard of super humbucking before because that's what sometimes the tar-backed pickups will be called. But take a look under here. True Blues pickup. That looks like what comes in the L6S. So perhaps instead of just calling them the Bill Lawrence pickups here, we should actually be calling them the True Blues pickup, because that's a name that was apparently given to it in this literature that I have not seen come up online. The next one is the Super Dirt pickup. Keeping in mind that this was a late 79, perhaps that is what they were initially called, because that's what you see in like the GK55. I think there was a 335-esque one, but you can see the double roll of pole pieces. Most people just call those the Dirty Fingers pickups. So I guess originally it was supposed to be Super Dirt. And then this P90 really surprised me. It's called Laid Back. Pretty much the easiest way to tell that you have a 70s P90 is it has the clear bobbins underneath it. Most of them are red, but I think the early ones have green wiring to them. But that's what would come in like that Les Paul Deluxe Pro. So a lot of cool information here, and it was a nice crash course of all the models that were available at this time. You have to remember that this was printed probably in early 1978, because the biggest model that I know that's not on here is a VSG. So that tells you the Paul came slightly before those guys.
The condition of this one, it's not the best. I'm not going to say it's trashed either, but it does have some light staining to it right here. But all in all, I would say this was a great haul for our first 80 bucks. This is probably worth around 100. I could probably get 40 for that. I'm not sure on this one. I'll probably list it at 100 and see what kind of offers we get. But this one, I'll try to get that 200 to see where we can go. So that's the approximate valuations I'm looking for here. So if you're interested in trading me something for these, like guitars or pedals, anything like that, if you want to have a piece of Gibson history, or just something for some case candy for your vintage guitar, you can do so at tradetrogly@gmail.com, and I will see you probably in 2 Tuesdays on this one. All right, thank you Troglodytes for tuning in today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.